Hey everyone, it is Austin back with another video on how to master your credit score. And today we're going to be talking about the holy grail of credit scores, that elusive 800 club. If you're anything like me, you're probably losing tons of sleep at night because, well, you're not in the club. But in all seriousness, there's so much that a high credit score can help with. So in this video, I'm going to show you what it takes to make an 800 level credit score. I would even bet that it can save you tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Having a high credit score can get you access to lower rates for car loans and mortgages. And a study from LendingTree shows the difference between a fair credit score and a very good credit score was the difference of $41,400 when it came time to buy a new home. So our credit system is a unique system that measures your financial worthiness. It's basically a measurement system lenders use to see how worthy you are for loans and credit-related products. It gives an easy-to-read single number score that measures how risky of a borrower you are. The higher the number, the safer. These are called FICO scores. And there are currently 16 different FICO scores, but in this video we'll be covering the FICO 8 credit scoring system. This is the most widely used of the FICO scores. When people are having that very normal Thanksgiving conversation, your weird uncle's bragging about his credit score, he's probably referring to his FICO 8 credit score. FICO 8 was launched in 2009 and FICO 8 scores range from 300 to a perfect score of 850. And this FICO system is almost similar to school. It's like a giant test with multiple different subjects, but instead each subject has a different weight for the score. It's like a giant pie and there are 5 different categories lenders use to measure creditworthiness on the FICO 8 system. And making up 35% of your pie for the credit score is going to be something called payment history. And this is a calculation that looks all of your late payments and specifically those late payments. It's almost like your driving record with insurance rates. If the company sees that you have 1 or more accidents on your report, they will likely probably charge you a higher rate. Well, the same is true for the credit scores. Late payments can negatively impact your credit score, and this is why it's so important to make all of your payments on time, even if it's just making that minimum payment. Let's take a look how it's calculated. So if you have one credit card and you've made 50 total payments and 48 of those payments were on time, so you only missed 2 payments. Your on-time payment percentage is 96%. So 96% may sound like a great score on a test, but in the credit world, it's not the same. According to Credit Karma, 96% is failing and unacceptable in order to achieve that perfect credit score. But if you find yourself in this situation, it's not the end of the world. More credit can actually fix this problem. And yes, I know, more credit. So let's say you add another credit card and you do a great job of paying your cards off for the next 75 months. Now you have 150 on-time payments. So if we add that to our previous payments, we have 200 total payments with only 2 late payments. This means that we made 198 on-time payments and 200 total payments, bringing our new on-time payment history to 99%, which brings us right back into the green, which will not count as much against us anymore. This can sound difficult, especially when you're adding more and more accounts and you need to make payments every month, sometimes at different spots of the month. That's why I always recommend auto. Autopay is what it sounds like. Most banking and credit apps have a setting that will automatically make a payment for you. You can either set this as a custom amount or just the minimum balance, but I think it's a great way just because juggling all these accounts can really open up the door for so many mistakes. And in this industry, mistakes are so costly. Probably don't rely only on the autopay system, but check your accounts maybe every couple of weeks, but it's nice to have that peace of mind that there's something in place to protect your credit score. So the second largest piece of the pie at 30% is going to be something called credit utilization. Credit utilization is a ratio of how much credit you are using versus how much credit you have available to. Let's think of it like a glass of water. The whole glass represents 100% utilization if it was full. Well, let's say we are spending money on our credit card, okay? So now we get, that's a great pour, Austin. We get to here. Let's just call it 20% full. Now with your credit card, you're using 20% of the total amount that you have for your credit limit, which is gonna bring your credit utilization to 20%. This number is averaged throughout your credit card. So let's pretend we have another credit card now at 40%. The average is gonna be 30% between the two. So between all of your credit lines, you are using 30% utilization. It may sound backwards, but by having multiple credit cards, you can actually increase the credit limit to your name. Maybe you don't use that other credit card very often, but that extra credit limit can really help boost your credit score. My FICO has a great graphic showing us what is optimal for a perfect credit score. In the industry, it is recommended to use less than 30% of your credit score. But if you're trying to get to the 800 club or you're going for that perfect score, you're gonna wanna be more around the 10% area. In a way, credit cards are like having a really nice antique car that you never really want to drive. But credit cards, if you never use them, they can actually really hurt your scores. So it's important to balance what goes onto your credit card in order to benefit the credit score the most. What's actually interesting, as your credit score increases, it's actually easier to keep your credit utilization down. When your credit score increases, it's likely that the credit card companies will actually issue you higher credit limits. And when you have a higher credit limit, that means you're probably using less utilization if you're spending the same amount. So with credit utilization, gotta keep it below 10% to get that perfect credit score. Maybe making 15% of credit scores is the length of credit history. So if you're looking at getting into the 800 club, that 15% translates into 120 points on your credit score. Length of credit history is pretty much just as it sounds. It's how long have you had your credit account. The credit scoring models generally look at average age of your credit when factoring in credit history. This is why when people are in college or when people are young as possible, I say it's super important to get a credit card. The Dave Ramsey method of buying everything in cash is a great lifestyle, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to buying a house or even a car, you may regret not doing a better job of building your credit while you're young. They might say stuff like, you don't need it, just buy it in cash, it's not that hard. But at the end of the day, this isn't something that you can just work on in one day. Length or credit history takes several years and years before you can even possibly get to the level of 800. Think of your credit history like a relationship. The longer it lasts, the more likely you are to have a joint checking account and share a Netflix password. And just like how you might not want to commit to a partner who you've only been dating for a few months, lenders may be hesitant to extend credit to someone with a short credit history. At the end of the day, you want to impress your partner, well, you also want to impress the banker. The longer you have your credit accounts shows lenders that you are more responsible. This is why it's super important to think carefully before closing old accounts. Maybe you don't think you want that TJ Maxx credit card you opened up in college, but if you only have 2 credit cards, that might be taking up a biggest portion of your credit history. Next, making up about 10% of your credit score is something called credit mix. Credit mix is like a balanced meal. Just as a healthy plate should have a variety of foods, a healthy credit report should have a variety of credit types. Think of it like a buffet. You have different dishes, you have your credit cards, your personal loans, your car loans, your mortgages. Each type of credit contributes to overall credit mix. And having a diverse mix shows lenders that you can handle different types of credit responsibly. Just like how you don't want to eat that same type of food for every meal, having one credit card on your report could limit your credit worthiness. For example, if you have all credit cards, you might be seen as a risky borrower compared to someone who has a mix of credit types, including a mortgage or even a car loan. You're taught to diversify in the stock market, but you also gotta diversify in your credit types too. Having different credit types like car loans, mortgages, credit cards, or even student loans can demonstrate that you can handle and manage your different types of credit effectively. They reward this behavior with higher scores, baby. And then making up the last piece of the pie at 10% brings us to new credit. New credit refers to the number of accounts that you have opened up recently, such as credit cards or loans. Lenders consider this factor when they evaluate your credit worthiness, as opening too many accounts at once can be seen as a sign of financial instability. On the other hand, having a few new accounts can help diversify your credit mix and improve your credit score. Here's another great analogy for you. When it comes to getting new credit, it's like dating. You want to make a good impression to show that you're responsible and trustworthy, just like how a new love interest might start checking your social media profiles to get a sense of who you are. Lenders will do the same thing with your credit report to assess your credit worthiness. So just like how you might want to pace yourself when it comes to dating, it's important for you to be strategic about how you apply new credit. So you want to do your research, compare offers, and only apply for credit when you really need it. And remember, just because you're eligible for new credit doesn't mean that you should necessarily take it. Sometimes it's just better to hold off and build up your credit history first. So let me go over my tips to begin your journey to the 800 Club. First thing is, I think you should be checking your credit report regularly. I say it's probably best to do it about once a month, maybe when you're paying your bills, but you don't want to look for any crazy swings or something that you didn't expect. And you should be doing this every 30 days because credit bureaus don't report any mess ups for at least 30 days. So this gives you a second chance to go in and fix any problems. And it only takes a couple seconds. And you can actually view your credit report for free. So where should you be checking on your credit report? Annualcreditreport.com, they have real reports from all 3 major bureaus and they do it absolutely free. The only con is that you can only access it once a year. That's going to give you the best in-depth data, so it's important to check this one on your yearly basis. But another great option if you want to be checking it more on a regular basis is going to something like Credit Sesame. But honestly, there's just so many different free options. So just don't pay anything, and there's so many different ways to check your credit score. Next tip is going to be dispute any errors or inaccuracies that you find in your credit report. If you spot an error, take immediate action. According to the Federal Trade Commission, about 25% of people found errors on their credit report. There's gonna be a link below on how to dispute your credit score if you find something that you think is wrong. And it'll go over in depth the different steps you can take. Another pretty obvious credit tip is gonna be use credit responsibly, honestly. The average American had $5,525 in credit card debt in 2021. So it's important to try to only use 10% of overall credit that's available to you. This is what's going to help you get to that perfect credit score. If you stick to that 10% rule, you're not going to get in too much trouble, and you're also going to have a really good credit score. It's going to help out tremendously. The last tip is just to be patient. If your credit score is down or you're just starting, it takes several years to get to a good point. In order to help your credit history, you will also have to avoid closing those old accounts. As bad as you might want to, think twice and maybe only put a candy bar on it every once in a while. But anyway, that's how you get to a 800 credit score absolutely free without spending any money. So I really hope this video was helpful, and if I earned that like, I really appreciate it. And anyway, I will see you in the next video. My name is Austin. Have a good one.